Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the recorded version of Developing Your Healthy Body Toolkit. This is a recorded version of a talk that I gave last Tuesday. And today we are going over giving you all of the tools to be strong in any season of life. So we're going to chat core control, pelvic floor health, self love, and all things about exercise around pregnancy. If you don't know me, my name is Marissa Lewan, but we'll get into my qualifications a little bit later. If you have a moment, I do invite you to take a second and do some diaphragmatic breathing. Sit nice and tall, take a couple big breaths in and out. The great part about this being a video format is that you can pause at any point that you want and take those deep breaths. Diving right in, let's talk about some common fears that women have surrounding exercise while trying to conceive, currently pregnant, or postpartum. Three big things that I hear as a trainer are: should I even be training? How do I know what to do if I choose to work out? And what is going to happen to my body? So let's dive in. First things first, yes, you should be training, full stop. There's always a way that we can help to get you moving. Training looks a little bit different on everyone. For some people, training for them is going to be going for a 10-minute walk every day. For someone like me who is currently in prep for a powerlifting competition, I have to lift a certain number of times a week. Training gets to meet you and your goals where you are at in each season of life. So do not ever let yourself feel down or negative about not being able to do XYZ, because frankly, those things don't matter because nobody else is you. Second thing, what should you do? Well, my short answer to that is you should hire a coach if you are unsure of how to navigate movement and exercise during pregnancy. I understand that that isn't accessible to everyone, but if it is in your means to do so, I highly suggest it. I myself do one-on-one, one-off video chats with people to help them put together a plan that ranges anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. But no matter which route you take, please, please, please take self data. That way, you have the ability to check in with yourself and develop an individual plan, whether that's with a coach or with yourself. And to answer the question of what is going to happen to your body, well, frankly, we don't know, but that's perfectly okay. It's just like every other season of life. We don't know what's going to happen during every training session. Therefore, we have no idea how your body is going to react to everything that happens in your life, which includes pregnancy and postpartum. Everybody's body is unique and different and beautiful. And that's kind of the coolest thing about what I do as a trainer, but also just all of us going through life and navigating all of our seasons. So, a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Marissa. My experience highlights: I've been in the industry for about 10 years. I am a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, a pain free performance specialist. I am a yoga teacher. I also am a competitive power lifter. So, I've worked with thousands of women over the last 10 years across many different disciplines, whether that's group fitness, yoga, one on one training, nutrition. And due to my experience with heavy lifting and working with so many women, I have learned a thing or two about pelvic floor health and how to help people learn how to brace their core correctly. So, before we dive in any further, let's go ahead and validate your feelings. We have never really studied the female body, which sounds crazy to say, but the majority of exercise based science that has happened throughout the years and years that it's been happening has been focused around men. And that has a lot to do with hormones and fluctuations. There was previous notes that women's hormones and how they kind of fluctuate throughout the month would skew data. And even something as simple as tampons weren't tested using real blood until about 2 years ago, which is wild if you really think about it. Medications, procedures, general health guidelines, they're pretty much all based on men's health. So right now we are in a cool but also unnerving kind of part of history where we're trying to figure all of these things out. And I say cool because we have this really unique opportunity to take the time and learn about our bodies individually, and not rely on general data points to learn. So it's no wonder that there's so much mystery kind of surrounding what happens to women, especially regarding anything hormonal or uterus specific, and especially regarding those things in collaboration with exercise. So now that we kind of have talked about and navigated our concerns and just kind of validating feelings about what it means to be a woman in the fitness space or trying to, live a healthier life, I'm going to give you 3 steps to living a healthier life. Step 1 is always begin where you are at. Okay. So if you are someone who has been consistently lifting weights for years or even months, right? And you do decide to embark on becoming pregnant, you do not have to change anything about your training at that point in time. You should continue on moving in the ways that feel good for you, in the ways that you enjoy, until it is no longer accessible. And we'll get into some modifications down the line here in this presentation. But with that being said, if you are someone who isn't currently exercising, that does not mean that you should wait until after baby is here to start exercising. It just means that maybe you fall in the camp of, okay, we'll start with some body weight work. And what I mean by body weight is we are moving our bodies without added resistance, whether that is a band, a weight, etc. Maybe you fall in the camp of a daily walk is a good part of training for you just to get your body moving. So, what begin where you're at kind of looks like for everyone, again, is going to be different. You're going to hear me say that a million times in this presentation. Everybody's body is different, so we have to treat them different and unique. Okay. Step 2 is to be consistent. So, no matter where you're at in your journey, finding a way to be consistent is going to be key to maintaining those habits down the line. It takes about 3 weeks to set a new habit in motion. And one of my favorite things to do with clients is habit stack. So, once we get one habit really situated, rolling, they're doing it every day or every other day or whatever the set amount is, we can then stack another habit back to back on top of that one. That just continues to keep the ball rolling. And boom, 6 months from now, you almost have a whole new lifestyle. But it was those 1% changes that made all the world of difference. And with consistency, even if you are only consistent one day a week, you are still 14% ahead of where you were the week prior. So don't feel bad about being wherever you are at, right? Begin where you're at, be consistent. When I approach consistency with clients, I ask them to aim for 80% compliance over a 10-day window. And what that looks like, so if you want to do the math, it's really easy math. You have 10 days, 8 days of those you're on track, 2 maybe you're not. So that leaves room for life, right? That is birthdays, holidays, other things like that, things that come up that we want to enjoy. And it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life all of the rest of the times. It just means that maybe we make some choices on, hey, this is going to be really great for me right now. And maybe this is something that I'll choose at a later date. So, step 3 is we've already talked about it. So, it's that habit stacking. Build on your established habits. Use things that you do consistently to be a springboard to push you into the next thing. A great example I like to use here, when a lot of people get depressed, one of the first things to go is brushing their teeth. So, as a coach, I have worked with people who have gone through bouts of depression. And one of the things that we work on is building a nighttime routine. And usually, one of the things is just ensuring that they are doing simple things like brushing their teeth every single night. And once they can do that for 2 weeks straight, then maybe we'll add something like washing their face directly after brushing their teeth. And I know for people who maybe have never struggled with anxiety or depression before, something like brushing your teeth being something that is hard to do may sound kind of strange. But using that as an example, like for the most part, everyone brushes their teeth every night. So why not add another thing back to back that you want to do right after something you know you already do? All right, diving into a couple of client examples. So, client A is 28 years old. She's got about 3 to 5 years of lifting experience, currently trying to conceive. She works with me for nutrition and training. So, I just want you to think about what would I change in her program when she told me she wanted to start trying for a baby. And what we changed was she was tracking macros, so protein, carbs, and fat. She also had certain micronutrient goals, think vitamins, potassium, fiber, etc. And we stopped the macro tracking. We moved to more of a hand portion sizing method, really focusing on intuitive eating, listening to her body. I also asked her to slow down how fast she eats, to be more mindful, to be able to listen to her body cues. She added a prenatal on her own. She is on top of it. And we did not adjust any training at this time because she is still trying to conceive, is not currently pregnant, and she has plenty of experience to be able to kind of continue pushing that wheel forward. There is no reason for us to expect that anything that she is doing right now would hinder her ability to get pregnant. So let's go back to our client B. So client B is 45 years old, recent hysterectomy, minor prolapse, a handful of months after operation, lots of experience with group fitness, just started lifting. So my question is, again, what did I change in her programming learning about the prolapse? So, one, she went ahead and scheduled a doctor's appointment. We talked about the fact that she is going to have an appointment with a pelvic floor therapist. That is outside of my scope of practice. So, that is something I will always refer out, whether it is a regular physical therapist or a pelvic floor therapist, things like that. Those are outside of my scope to work with. There are things that I can kind of hold your hand on and help. But when it comes to injuries or medical things, as a trainer, I will always refer out. Other things that we did that I are in my scope of practice working with her so we can continue to work together. We removed or adjusted any moves that she felt incapable of bracing during. We're really lucky that a lot of things weren't, she couldn't feel anything funny. Nothing seemed to be triggering it specifically. But we did go ahead and limit all high impact movements, such as jumping. That way, we are not putting any impactful force on that area of her body. So, diving a little bit deeper, your pelvic floor really isn't as weak as you think. And one thing that we talked about during the talk, the live talk version of this that I gave, was that a lot of women actually have almost too strong of a pelvic floor. And some of the doulas jumped in saying how that can like really be a hindrance during birth. And I can only imagine that that is the case. But when it comes to pelvic floor training, you can really engage your internal core muscles properly during any strength exercise if you want to. But there are some direct core moves that we can incorporate to develop a stronger set of internal core, or just become more aware of that area as a whole. You don't need to do Kegels unless your pelvic floor therapist tells you to. So go ahead and stop clenching now. So, intentional bird dogs. And what I mean by intentional, I put it in quotes, it's really just slow, mindful exercise. And I do have some video examples that I will play for you. And I will go ahead and kind of send you all some resources if you reach out and have any questions. Dead bugs with or without resistance, diaphragmatic breath, which was on that second slide. So you can always go back through and kind of revisit that. Glute bridges and variants of glute bridges, and then Pallof press variations as well. So right here, I am going to play a video from the Pain-Free Performance Specialist course that I went through a handful of weeks ago. This is a bird dog. It is a really intentional way of doing a bird dog, so super, super controlled. And I'll go ahead and play that now. So what you notice here is he is actively pushing his foot against the floor to create tension, and he is only lifting his foot up a tiny amount. He's also not crunching in elbow to knee like you see in a lot of yoga classes. And then dead bugs. So dead bugs are kind of like a bird dog, but flipped on your back. I love dead bugs. They are in every single one of my clients' programs in some variation. So I'll go ahead and play that video now. So you can see he's feeling the muscles of his core, really flattening his low back to the mat underneath him and taking the time to slowly reach in opposite directions without losing the brace through his belly. Okay. So moving on. Glute bridges, there are a lot of different variants of glute bridges that are great. You can do a classic glute bridge, but I do want you to have your heels a little bit closer to your glutes. That way we get a little more tension, and you have the option to add a band. He has it looped behind the back of his heels and then over your lap like a seatbelt, which I absolutely love because you can slide it more down towards your knees for quad activation or a little bit more up towards your hips for more glute activation. So you can see he really pushes in to the heels of his feet, really lifting up, good squeeze and engagement at the top. And I would venture to guess that he is bracing his core really, really well. All right, last one. This is my favorite variant of Palloff press. This is taking a dead bug and a Palloff press and kind of combining them. A traditional Palloff press, you would be standing and moving the band in and out straight from the sternum, stepping far enough away from the anchor point that you feel like it could turn you, but you are resisting that tension. So we'll go ahead and play that again.
So here we have the dead bug lateral Palloff press. So we'll have the band secured from a lateral position right beside us. We'll be setting up into a dead bug, drawing our air into our lower abdomen, maintaining 360 filling and a neutral spine. From here, we'll be pressing our hands straight up until our elbows are nice and straight, and then back down. One more. Now, some of the common issues we see with this is when we press up, our lower back lifting off the ground. So we want to ensure that we're using our abdominal musculature and breathing to maintain position with the floor.
All right. So he gave a really good explanation of that move and kind of all of its benefits. That is also a really great one if you are someone who struggles with rotational, like anti-rotational strength. So you are very easily pushed over. You lean to one side if you carry a purse or a, baby in a carrier, things like that. Palloff presses in all of their variations are fantastic for that. So, diving in a little bit deeper, let's talk about training while pregnant and postpartum. So, first off, first and second trimester. First trimester, the only adjustments that I would make as a trainer are based on comfort. So, if a client is dealing with a blood pressure spike or a heart rate spike or nausea of any kind, we will choose exercise variants that allow them to continue similar stimulus as when they were trying to conceive based on their athletic level. Okay. In the first trimester, you really can do pretty much everything that you have done prior unless something is uncomfortable. And once you start to show through your belly, which most people don't in the first trimester, if we're noticing any coning or kind of a point happening in the belly, then we would want to make some adjustments. So that leads us into second trimester. So second trimester, we'll begin to limit direct pressure on the abdomen, but we can still actively engage the core until discomfort or coning occurs. Weight will go down, and by that I mean the weight or force that we are putting on the body. So for things, squats or bench press or any sort of weight like that, we likely will reduce weight to make sure that our heart rate is staying at a lower rate as well. We also will start to prioritize more supportive postures. So maybe more seated moves, more things that their back can be up against something for balance, something like a TRX support, just to make sure that as elastin or relaxin, which will help to, kind of make their joints a little bit more loosey-goosey, we're not losing their balance and control and stability as that stuff starts to change. Moving into third trimester, we will remove pretty much all direct core work and pretty much every move is going to be fully supported. In addition, we will keep a close eye on heart rate and follow any other doctor recommendations from their provider. So that being said, if they are told to be put on bed rest, hey, that's what we got to do. If they are told to limit, amount of time of duration for exercise, we will also do that as well. And then postpartum, as soon as the client is ready, willing, and able to begin movement, we will do so. We always start slow when it comes postpartum, working with their body as needed to adjust and grow with their post-baby body. moves that prioritize life skills are a priority for the first 2 to 6 months. So things like being able to carry baby, things like being able to hold something on one side while holding baby on the other. So a lot of stabilizing moves, being able to squat and get up without using hands. Really simple stuff like that. I say it's simple, it's really not. It's those key life things that we will need just to keep the ball rolling to be able to be, a badass mom, a badass caregiver wherever you're at. But postpartum is really dependent on what your birth kind of plan and execution looked like. So, people who tend to have C-sections usually need a little bit longer recovery versus a vaginal birth, but that's not always the case. People who tended to be able to be active for the majority of their pregnancy do tend to be able to, I hate to use the word bounce back, but they're able to move a little bit quicker into their old exercise regimen. So that's kind of it from me. I know this was kind of a long talk. I hope all of you took something from it that you benefit from. But if you want to learn more or work together, here is all of the info that you need to reach me. I know some of you may be watching this on a phone, so ignore the QR code. But if you're watching it on a computer, you can go ahead and scan that and it'll take you right to my website. Or feel free to follow either of my Instagram pages. Fully Integrated Training is going to be my business page, and then risliftsalot is my personal page where I post like all of my lifting stuff. Fullyintegrated.training is going to tell you all of the things that I offer as a trainer or coach, and then my email there for any questions that you may have. Thank you all so very much for joining in. If you watched this, I hope that you have a great rest of your day. If you are trying to conceive, currently pregnant, or postpartum, you have all my love. You can do this. You are a badass. Find a way to stay active.